Hey there, this is Natalie, and thank you for joining me during the gap between Christmas and New Year, the taint of the holidays as it were, for this discussion of Attack on Titan Season 4 Episode 4, or Episode 63 of the full Attack on Titan anime series, which is called From One Hand to the Other. I've just finished watching the episode and so I'll get straight into it, but please give the video a like and please consider subscribing and ringing the bell if you want to see more of my Attack on Titan content. I mostly cover Attack on Titan and ReZero, and I do everything from reviews of the latest episodes and chapters through to theories and deep dive analysis. Plus I upload new content several times a week. It really does help us content creators out if you like and subscribe, so please consider doing that. And with the traditional YouTuber nonsense out of the way, let's get on with Attack on Titan Season 4, Episode 4. I will be talking about the handling of the big reveal in the post-credits scene and how well I think Isayama does these kinds of reveals in general at the end, because I like to recap the episode and comment on the different scenes in order. But I have quite a lot of thoughts on that part, so stick around until the end if you're interested in the big Eren reveal. Now, I actually wasn't sure if this episode was going to come out this week, where this period over Christmas, that's also that gap time between the fall and winter seasons, where a lot of seasonal shows have already ended but the new stuff isn't starting yet, can sometimes have breaks for ongoing shows. But it seems like next week is going to be the break instead, with Attack on Titan Season 4 Episode 5 looking likely to air on January 10th. A 2-week gap to see what comes next after this episode is going to feel really long, because whether you're a manga reader and know what's coming, or an anime only who is feeling the sense of building up to something really big this episode had, you just know Episode 5 is going to be a standout moment in the series. So, the first scene before the OP shows Falco leaving Reiner without much of an explanation, and we get the impression he's been doing this quite often. He's off to see the wounded soldier we saw in the last 2 episodes, who we find out here is called Mr. Kruger. It is interesting to note that we've already seen a character called Kruger before in Attack on Titan. That was the name of the man who had the Attack Titan before Eren Jaeger. Kruger asks Falco to post a letter for him, and Falco is happy to help the poor guy, not thinking for a moment there might be anything sus about that. After the OP, which honestly I love more every time I hear it, we see the Marleyan Captain Magath, who was introduced in episode 1 of the new season, and who is a character you should pay attention to during this season. And he's being surprised by the information that the whole Tybar family, along with their private guards, has arrived. We know from the scene with Zeke and the other Titan shifters in episode 2 that the Tybar family is extremely wealthy and powerful, and that they have possession of the Warhammer Titan, though this Titan has not been used in the various recent warfare, and the owner of the Titan shifter ability is a secret. Magarth meets with Willy Tybar, who's the head of the family and the one intending to give a pivotal speech at this festival we heard mention of in episode 2. We see some brief glimpses of the family as Willy invites Magarth to guess which one of them is the Warhammer Titan. He assures him that the Warhammer Titan is among them, and we see children, elderly people and their staff. Nobody who really obviously looks like they might have hidden warrior powers. So all bets are off as to whether it's Willy himself or one of these random people who's going to be showing us the Warhammer Titan eventually. He talks to Magarth about the legendary warrior Helos, who there is a statue of, and he states that a new hero is needed. The conversation they have here is laden with subtext, with Magarth's own feelings about Marley and its warmongering tendencies coming out, both in his advocacy of conscription, where he thinks the average Marleyan thinks of their wars only as entertainment, and his comment that the Helos statue is a good representation of the spirit of Marley because it's hollow on the inside. Magarth is a Marleyan, not one of the Eldian soldiers, so it's interesting to see his cynical view of the country. Willy confirms that the Tybars do essentially run Marley from the shadows, but that the country's warmongering ways are its own responsibility. I really liked this scene. It tells us a lot and starts already building up the intrigue around just what Willy Tybar is going to be saying to the public at this festival. The low-key, high-class people talking feel is similar to scenes we have seen in earlier seasons, where characters like Pixis and Erwin were doing their political manoeuvrings, and it's cool to see Magarth here on the other side of the sea. Willy is an interesting character, and his powerful personality comes across right from the start, which is a good thing considering how many new people are being brought into the plot at this fairly late stage. Getting the feel for them quickly is important, and I think that was definitely achieved in this episode for Willy. Next we get some lighter scenes spent with the Eldian Titan shifters and warrior candidates. Well, I mean, they're as light as things can really get, all things considered. We see that Peak freaks people out by crawling around on all fours, because after spending months at a time as the cart titan, she thinks it feels more natural. This was something that appeared earlier in the manga, and it was good to see it show up here. I think as we get further into the season, people are going to see that Peak is awesome. Don't let the ugly ass cart titan fool you. Peak is going to be best girl for a lot of people. We then see Reiner reporting his knowledge of Paradise Island to some ungrateful Marleyans, and then Colt, Reiner, Peak, Galliard and Zeke watch the younger warrior candidates training, commenting on how Falco is taking things seriously and has finally managed to beat Gabi in a race. Colt, his older brother who's going to inherit the Beast Titan, comments that Falco will not be able to catch up to Gabi at this point. Then we switch to the kids themselves, with Udo and Zofia celebrating Falco's amazing achievement of beating Gabi in front of some guards. Falco insists that he's trying his hardest to inherit the armoured titan, but Gabi gets annoyed at him for trying so hard, saying that she deserves it, and that Falco's family will get honorary Marleyan status anyway because of Colt, so there's no need for him to try. This causes Falco to blurt out that he's doing it for her. There's a funny moment here where the guards take this as a long overdue romantic confession, but Gabi doesn't get it. She doesn't see someone else having the armoured titan as saving her life, but as stealing her thunder. We see more of how Gabi feels about things in the next scenes, as we see local people praising her and giving her free food, even though the guy day drinking and hugging who he thinks is the war hero Gabi actually grabs Zofia instead. And then the kids check out the stage that's being built for the festival. Gabi thinks the festival will be a chance for people to see that the Eldians working for Marley are not devils, and for her to impress people with her charm and further secure her position as the inheritor of Reiner's Titan. They notice Captain Magath sitting by the newly constructed stage, and the scene transitions over to him and Willy. Willy feels like a great responsibility has landed in his lap, to be head of the Tybar family when this action needs to be taken, though we still don't know exactly what that action is going to be. Then we cut to Falco telling Mr. Kruger about how he beat Gabi in the race and how he's trying to keep moving forward, landing again on an echo of the line Reiner said to Eren all the way back in season 1. Kruger thanks Falco for delivering his letters and says he will be returning to his hometown soon. Then, when Falco leaves, we get a very interesting scene where a doctor named Jaeger, who we can surmise from the conversation is indeed Grisha's father, or Eren and Zeke's grandfather, warns Kruger not to compromise the hard work that Colt and Falco have done to earn their family honorary Marleyan status by causing suspicion to fall on Falco with the letters. The conversation is intense, and Jaeger tells Kruger about his regrets, becoming more and more distressed until we see nurses come and guide him away. The man who had seemed like he was a doctor here was actually another disturbed patient, traumatized presumably by everything that's happened to him. Now the scene changes to an elegant party in Willy Tybar's honour, where dignitaries from all over the world, including the Middle Eastern Federation we saw Marley at war with in episode 1, are attending. The warrior candidates have been drafted in to serve as waiting staff, and tried to do this with all the finesse that comes with their military training. But Udo overhears somebody being racist about the Eldians, and in his distraction spills some wine on the white kimono, of a lady from the eastern nation of Hizuru. This is a country that will come up again and is basically the Japan of this Earth-inspired world. She covers for Udo and says she spilled the wine on herself, and Udo doesn't understand why she's being kind to him. We see that, as well as having an equivalent of Japan, there are representatives of many different cultures similar to countries in the real world at this party, and this causes tension when a guy gets up to make a speech and accidentally mixes up his words, saying that yesterday's enemy is the enemy of today, when he meant to say friend. Willie, however, smoothly steps in and takes the stage from him, and everybody, regardless of nationality and how recently they may have been at war with the other nations present, seems to pretty much love Willie, so he manages to swiftly rescue the mood and deliver a speech that gets both the dignitaries and me pretty hyped to see what he's going to be revealing when he takes the stage at the festival. Willie's theatrical flair here is definitely building this up in-world, and for those of us watching, it serves to further establish that that festival mentioned in episode 2 is going to be a major event in the plot that's going to change the course of everything for everybody involved. And it's exactly that sentiment that Gabi groans as she's being dragged home by Reiner after eating too much at the stalls set up for the festival. Being Eldians, none of them have ever seen a festival before, so they have a happy time trying all the different international foods and entertainment. It would be a shame if such a happy day were to be immediately followed by absolute insanity, wouldn't it? And that's the end of the normal part of the episode, but this time there is a post-credits scene before the preview of episode 5, and it was a big moment to end the episode. I was keeping low-key in my video last week about the fact that Kruger, the injured soldier, is actually Eren, because while I know a lot of people did take the way Kruger talking about moving forward was shown right after Reiner's memory of saying the same thing to Eren, plus the focus on the distinctly green eye, to be the reveal, I still felt like some people would complain about spoilers, where I'm a manga reader, if I treated that as confirmation before it was explicitly revealed in the anime. Now though, it has been confirmed, and not only to us, but also to Reiner. Falco went to get Reiner because his friend, Mr. Kruger, said he knew him, and, well, now we have our reunion. I have to say I really like the way Isayama does these kinds of reveals in Attack on Titan, and if anything, it works even better in the anime than in the manga. The twists about the identities of different characters, like Annie being the female Titan, Reiner and Bertholdt being Titan shifters, and Kruger being Eren, are never done in a way that makes them especially hard to guess. But he does the reveals in this low-key way that makes them feel like natural developments in the story. Like, of course, these people would have tried to keep these secrets, and of course, they would get found out. There's no overly dramatic, look at what a clever writer I am for making up this wild twist shenanigans. Nothing feels like it's been over-engineered to subvert your expectations. It's all played out as just things that would organically happen in the setting and situations he's created, and the natural consequences of them. Whether you took the end of this episode or the end of episode 3 as the reveal, Eren was just doing what he was doing, and the fact that we know about him and so might have figured it out before he chose to reveal himself to Reiner didn't change how he behaved. There aren't many writers who have the balls to handle their biggest twists and surprises like that, and the handling of reveals is a really interesting thing in Attack on Titan that I think probably deserves its own video at some point. So, that was the episode. Personally, with the sped up pacing in episode 3, which I talked about in a couple of videos and discussed with a lot of people in the comments, I was actually expecting this episode to end a little bit further along in the manga content than it did. But this slower pace that kept in even what could be considered some filler type bits, I think worked well for this particular episode, allowing it to end on a real wham moment, and also to spend a bit more time on the lives and people in Marley that we need to be invested in before everything gets very, very disrupted. I know the fast pacing and content cuts in episode 3 were controversial, but the most important role of episode 3 within the story that's really starting to get rolling in episode 4 was to understand Reiner better, and it definitely achieved that. However you felt about the lack of female Titan in the attack on Wall Maria, or the scene with Annie and Kenny Ackerman that confused some people. Keeping all of what we've come to know about Reiner since the season began in mind, and knowing that he's incredibly damaged by all that's happened and really only staying alive because he's worried about the futures of the warrior candidates like his cousin Gabi and Falco, gets us into position to have events really start moving forward. With episode 4 they do, but the pacing's been dialed back to really allow the tension to start rising, and I think it definitely achieved that feeling that something huge is about to happen, even if that does mean people expecting answers about Eren, now he's finally been revealed, have to remain unfulfilled for 2 more weeks. On the ongoing subject of the animation and Studio Mappa's take on the series, this, like episode 2, was a more low-key installment action-wise, and so I don't think the people waiting for some big Sakuga moments to make their minds up about how they feel about Mappa's take on Attack on Titan really have anything new to judge the season on here. I've been saying I like Mappa's adaptation so far, and nothing here really changes that either. I really liked how they presented Willy Tybar, both in terms of design and voice acting. But I think we will be having a lot more to talk about on the matter of the look of the show when episode 5 comes along, so I'm going to leave that here for now. Let me know in the comments though if there are any particular scenes or moments you loved or disliked in terms of the presentation. Often there are things I don't really focus on in these reviews I do right after the first viewing of an episode that begin to really stand out after seeing other people's takes and talking about the episode some more. So I really love discussing this stuff with you guys on these weekly episode review videos. Other than that, I hope you all had a great Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, or a great Levi Ackerman's birthday. And honestly, there were more tweets on my feed on Twitter about Levi's birthday than there were about Christmas, which was pretty fun. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon for more Attack on Titan.